Right, hi guys, welcome back.
Welcome back everybody, and everybody who's new, welcome to the channel.
Yes, and you got a thank you to do.
Oh, I've got a little thank you. Jeff Yates, thank you very much for the coffees that you bought us, and Glenn is now very caffeinated.
Yeah, thank you. I'm getting caffeinated. Thank you, Jeff. Much appreciated. Right, okay, now thank you for all the views on the last video we put up about the chucks, my chucks. Why I have so many, why I have so many different drawers and stuff.
Popular demand.
But yes, a lot of people did ask about doing the one for. I did say if you want to see one for Tenons Recesses, then give me a shout and I'll do it. Okay, so this is not a versus. I find that so bloody stupid when people say, "Oh, mortise versus tenon," and you know, it's like spindle gouge versus bowl gouge. Oh, it's just, why do people do that? Is it? Anyway, I'm not getting on that. Right now, in Woodturn, we have two ways of holding with our chuck. Okay, we can contract and we can expand. That is it. There is no other ones. It does that. It doesn't go in and out. It doesn't go side. It contracts. It expands. Okay. So that's the ways we can hold. I know we can put worm screws in. I know we can put face plates on. In fact, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how we hold the wood. Okay. Right. So when would you use? When would you use a tenon? When would you use a recess? You can use either at any time, but sometimes one works a bit better than another. Okay, now if you're turning, and I've got some blanks just prepared, I'll put tenons on just so I can show you. New turners want to know about how to put a tenon on. Some of them struggle. Right, I've basically rounded this, but I haven't put nothing on the bottom. It just goes on a worm screw. Okay, if anyone watched my videos, you know I like to use worm screws. Now if I'm turning something like this and I'm roughing this down and I'm going to turn it around to hold it, I would 9 out of 10 times go for a tenon. Okay, so I'll get it roughed on the outside, put the tenon on. I might do a bit of a finish on it, turn it round, hold it, hollow it, and then I've got to turn it round to take the tenon off at the end. Okay, so that's something you've got to consider. Now there's nothing to say that you can't have a recess in a bowl like this. Now you might actually want to keep that lovely shape there and keep the whole shape, but just have your holding point and not change it. If you put a tenon on, when you come to do the end, you're going to take your tenon off, yeah, and then you're going to have to put a slight dip in or put a slight foot on, whatever, so that it can sit flat, because you don't want it to be rolling about. Now if you put a little recess in there, you can actually cut in, just flatten this bit off. Okay, now you don't have to hollow that whole bit out. You can just do enough for your jaws to go in, and then when you look at the bowl, when it sits there, it can still have this nice shape, but it actually sits on a little rim, and you haven't flattened nothing, and you've held it that way. It might be a way you want to finish your piece. That is down to you. It's not a right or wrong way. It's what you want. And don't go by this. People say, well, let's get straight. The only person that will ever criticise what you've done on the bottom of a bowl is another wood turner. And the chances of them buying your piece off you is zero. Okay, don't worry about members of the public. They don't look at that and go, well, I would have used a tenon rather than that. Doesn't happen. Okay, so don't worry about that. It's what you do with that at the end. So there you've really got a choice. But now if you want to turn something, you might want to turn like a little plate out of this, or you might want to do a little key dish or coin dish out of this. Well, you don't want to lose any wood. So if you don't want to lose any wood, the best thing is to then, you're going to want to go for a recess, because if you put a tenon on, you've then got to take that tenon off and finish the bottom. Okay, where you could put a nice little recess in there and you don't lose any of the size. Okay, so that might be some reason why you'd want to use a recess on things like this and not a tenon. I've got a couple of pieces now. This is something where I did a tenon. I used a tenon, a big tenon, and then I made that tenon as the foot, okay, on the little bowl, and done it that way. So that's, I didn't I didn't know how I was going to turn out on this, and I'd get a bit lazy. I didn't want to have to finish it, hollowing it, and then turn it around, remount it, and finish the foot off. So what I actually did is I made that so that I could hold that, and I remember I used these jaws up here, my gripper jaws, to hold it. Perfect circle, and they didn't mark. That's a time when I want a perfect circle. It won't mark, okay? So then that could come off, and that was it. That was finished, okay? I think there's a video of me making that one.
There is.
Right. Then we've got things like these little pots, okay? Now this one, when I was on my jaws I've got up there, I was able to turn this round and remount it so I could flatten the bottom off. So I did this one with just a flat bottom, okay? But when I did this one, again, I wasn't sure, because remember, I'm turning the outside first, and I'm thinking this top here, this live edge, how am I going to remount it, and what am I going to do? Do I want to put a jam chuck and take a bit and then sand and nip? Again, I'm a bit lazy with that. So again, perfect circle, finished the bottom, turned it round, was able to hold it, do all the hollowing, and then it come off, and that's it. Hey presto, it's finished. And that just makes a little foot for the bottom, so we can use that. Then we can go to recesses. Now here, this piece, I didn't want to lose any of that height on this one, okay? This is a bit of spalted beach on here, and it was lovely, the spalting. I didn't want to lose it, but I just done a little recess like that. Not to everyone's fancy, but I was quite happy. I've done little buttons in it, I've done a little recess, so finished it off, turned it round, hollowed it out. When it come off, that was it, it's done. I didn't lose any height from it. If I'd put a foot on there, I would have had to have taken that foot off afterwards, and I would have lost a bit of height on it. And I think if it had come down a little bit more, to me, it's not what I wanted. So it's like I say, it's what I want. It's not what anyone else has got to like. Recesses now on here, on the bottom of this one. See, now here, I turned the recess into a feature, but also I made a foot around the outside, curved it in, so it's got a bit going on the bottom, okay? So this is the foot that it sits on, and then that's the recess, and I held it in there. Now that gives me the ability also with this sort of wood that I can, because it's a burr, I can always put it on. See, now sometimes like here I can feel little bits come up on a burr. You know, the wood moves still, it still moves. I can always put that back on, give it another little sand, another little oil, and it'd be like new again. I'm just leaving it because it's natural. And I didn't, of course, it again being a burr, it had a hole in it which I had to resin.
Coffee in it, yeah.
That was where I mixed coffee and resin together, and I put, that's actually a hole there, so I put resin in it.
And some of the wood as
At
well.
the time when I was turning it, I didn't know how it was going to be when I hollowed it, how I was going to hold it to finish it off. It actually turned out all right. I mean, we've got some potpourri stuff in there. It smells really nice actually. I could have held it, but it was very thin. I turned it, hollowed all out, and I didn't want to mess about. So that was the finish. Turned it round, held it on there, no marking. That was it. The lid the same. The lid I did that with a recess here that I could hold in. Done a bit of patterning. Maybe over fancy for some people. I like it.
I like it.
Okay, so I've just done a few bits on that, but I could hold it there, turn it round, because I glued this wood in, and then I turned the whole top with that in, so it all blended in perfectly. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. So I had to be able to hold it, but I weren't then going to be able to turn it round and take anything off of that, not with all this here. So there are times when a recess really is essential, and that's what you're going to have to use is a recess. Okay, and again we come down to different size jaws. Now this again, that would be this size recess, okay, that would be fine, but then something like that, that's way over what these jaws. This is why all the different size jaws I have. Now yes, I could open it up and get a hold, and probably hold, as long as you're delicate. Again, this comes down to this perfect circle. You can get away with it, okay, you could hold a recess with these virtually fully expanded, and you will only be touching on these certain points. But as long as you're gentle and you're careful with your cuts and you don't get a catch, there'll be no problem. You can do it. It just takes a little bit of practice. But if you're going to be making heavy cuts, and the worst thing of all is if you're going to try and hollow and go this way and go this way, and that, all you're doing is like wiggling a tooth. That is going to come off, and people that do that, they will always lose bowls. Might not lose every bowl, but they will lose bowls. Okay, right, let's get back to doing a tenon now, so we can actually say just how we do a tenon on little bowl. I'm going to start with the little one first, this little one, right? So we're turning this little bowl. Now, we could put a recess in that if we wanted. Again though, if I was going to do a recess, this would be the smallest recess I can really do. I think
too big, isn't it?
that would look a bit silly on the bottom of that. Again, this is where you would want to go down to some small jaws like this size, hence why so many different types. It depends. If you turn the same things all the time and you hold things the same way all the time, life will be very boring. Your wood turning will be very boring, but you'll get away with one set of jaws. There you go. Right, I'm going to start off. Now, I would always recommend to anyone, get yourself a worm screw. Chuck. Fantastic. Worth every penny, okay? I love worm screws. And the bigger, even on something like that, I would still use that size one. It gives me plenty of support on the back, okay? Screw size. These are adjustable. They come out, so little grub screw in there. You can take it, change it, different sizes. Why bother? 9 out of 10 times you're going to be hollowing it, aren't you? So it doesn't matter what size hole you've got in there. I've got ones where I've got the thinner ones. What's the point of really changing? Might as well just go for your biggest one and that's it, it's done. But what I'm going to do, because not everyone's got one of those, so I'm going to use the actual chuck. It comes in your chuck. Right, now I did do a little proper measure up. Now when you put this in, right, where your jaw comes to its bottom of its triangle, so like there, where the carries are, you've got the flats on here, so just line your flats up with it, okay? And that's where it is. That means it can't turn. Now I don't know why they don't make these really the right size. I suppose different thickness of jaws, I suppose. I don't know, but right, pull it forward and just tighten. Now again with that is it. That is the nip. This is metal on metal, okay? Neither is going to give. One will only stretch or damage. So that is it. It can't come out and it can't twist because it's got flats and it's held in there. The wood's going to tighten on and that's going to keep everything tight. Don't over tighten it. Now, what have we got there? I don't need all that worm screw. So make yourself up some little plates, okay? You don't need all, and make them a little bit bigger than your jaws. The more surface area you've got here touching on this, the less likelihood of that doing that, which is where again things break, catches happen. Now I've got different size discs. Just drill a hole in it, screw it on, okay? Once it's screwed on, you can turn it to round, so put a square bit of wood on, turn it to round yourself. If you want to make them thinner, you can make them thinner, don't hit the threads. But that's enough coming out on a little bowl this size. There you go, that's on, okay? And then we can put our tenon on. Now, for that, I would always recommend, if you can do it, now you can do it with recesses, you can have your tailstock up, but you have to muck about. It's not the easiest way, especially if you're new to turning, okay? When you're doing tenons, you can always put your tailstock in. Always, if you can put it in and it's not going to affect you, put it in, okay? There is no way that wood's ever going to come off or go anywhere, okay? Right, so now we're going to come in. Now our measurement. Now I know, because I've measured that, because when you put that worm screw in, that actually there is the perfect circle, okay? This one is literally about a 3mm gap between your jaws to give you a perfect circle. So I've got another chuck here. Okay, actually, get rid of that. I've got another chuck up here with exactly the same jaws on. Okay, this is a 1/8 TPI. So, right now, basically that much, that's perfect circle. Okay, if you want to know, put your chuck on and turn it, and your eye, when you look at it, you'll see if it's out of shape or if it's perfect circle. So with these record power jaws, Nova, Sorbys, the old lot, they're all the same. That's your perfect circle. Okay, now they're exactly the same jaws that are on there. So what I can do is I'll give that a little measure, and right, my internal for a tenon, right, is, what's that, 48? About 48. So I wouldn't want to really go much below 48. That would be, you'd be getting to you ain't got enough to tighten. So for me, a tenon, I would more go around 50. I never go perfect circle, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I can go up to around 60. I think you don't have a great deal of movement on these chucks. So I can go up to about 60. So it gives me a good leeway. I haven't got to be 100% accurate. People, they make these jigs up and everything, and it's got to be perfect circle. It doesn't have to be. Okay. Now, the beauty, if you've got the Axminster jaws, that's a bit different. That's about 6 mil on theirs. They're a lot thicker, a lot chunkier, and when they're made in a solid piece, then they're cut into 4, and that's about a 6 mil gap in there to make perfect circle. So just get your perfect circle. It's easy to do. If you put your chuck on and you spin it, it's like with the record power, it's easy. Put your worm screw in, tighten it down, that's your perfect circle. Okay, just measure it, then you'll know what yours are. All you want to know is your minimum and your maximum that you can do. Don't worry about the in-between sizes. Okay, I can make my tenon from that size to that size. So there you go. So this, I said I'm going to do around 50 mil. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll quickly move that off. I've got my little centre bit there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is measure from that again. Right, I can't do, let me come here, a 50 mil tenon, sorry, 25 25 to say, that's why I was getting a bit mixed up. Right, 25, so that's going to be 50. Oh, break the pencil. After a while, you'll get to just know. You look at it, you know where your tenon is. It comes with time. Okay. Now, perfect circle. People will say a perfect circle. I was going to leave that up, wasn't I? I don't need it, but because it's on the worm screw, I know it's safe. And I'll get on with cutting the tenon in a minute. Different ways to do it with different tools, what we do. Right, perfect circle. Now, it makes me laugh it in a way, because if you do a perfect circle, I'll go back to my chuck here. There, if that's the perfect circle, and I make my tenon that size, when I put it on and I clamp, that's it, that's perfect circle. Well, that's not going to be tight, is it? It's not going to be tight enough. And you're going to have to, this is where you'll see people wrench it there, and they go to that one and they wrench it. I've seen some of the American ones doing their demos, and they put a Tommy bar on the end and they pull it round to get a top. That would not be a Tommy bar, I tell you. That would be a Rogering bar, because I know where that would go if he'd done it on one of my chucks. Right. Right, so when you've got a perfect circle like that, you tighten it down, and all this is touching. Okay, to get a grip, because you're putting all this flat onto a flat, it's not going to grip. Okay, you need these little corners to give that little bite in. So a perfect circle is not the best to hold, and it's never a perfect circle, because that's perfect circle. So if I put that onto a piece of wood that's that size, that's the perfect circle. It is not tight enough to hold. Then I'm going to use the wrong chuck key. So we'll put that in, and we'll go and wrench. now. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
That open.
it popped
Yes,
open.
this chuck is one of the first. This is it's a record power, but it's a G3, and it actually works in reverse.
Oh.
Yeah, when you screw in, it opens, and when it goes, it's quite confusing actually. Right, so you'll get it, and you'll go like that, and tighten down. Right, now you've gone from perfect, so you're not a perfect circle anyway.
Crushed it.
And you've crushed it into your wood. The better way, make your tenon for this size, put it in there, okay, tighten, nip, that's it. These will bite in, everything's held. It's wood, that will go into that wood so easily, it just nips in like that, and that's it. You've got it, you've held it. You don't have to wrench down or anything. And I guarantee you, if you make that tenon a perfect circle, and you take that piece off and you put it over there, and you go back there a couple of hours later and you check that, it will not be a perfect circle anyway. Okay, it changes. Wood moves. We're not doing metal, we're clamping wood. Don't be obsessed by perfect circle. The only important thing here on your tenon, and I'll chuck again, sorry, is that, got a broken pencil, it must not touch this bottom here. Okay, if you're doing a recess, it must not be deeper than this. Okay, you want it maximum of 3/4 the depth. Ideally the smaller recess looks better, okay, but obviously you've got to be able to hold it. Okay, right, you don't want a recess to bottom out on here, and you don't want a tenon to bottom out in here. It won't hold. Okay, you will lose it. If your tenon's too big, it will never center up, it will never be straight, you'll lose it. A tenon must register on here. Okay, so when you go in, it's got to be maximum, I'd at least leave 3mm back on that, because when you turn, it is wood, it will suck it back. This will push in, the wood will come in, dovetail will suck it back. Okay, so the depth is the most important thing. Don't make it too deep. Don't think that the longer the tenon is, the better hold you're going to have. It doesn't work like that. Okay, that doesn't work. It's, in fact, sometimes the longer the tenon, the more leverage, the more chance it will peel that piece of wood off. Okay, and you'll lose the bowl. So let's just very quickly turn this tenon. There's so many ways we can do it. Now I know most people do with their carbide, so we're on here, we've turned our bowl. Okay, we've got to this point, and we've got to the point where we're going to cut our tenon in. Now I've shown it so many times, okay, with a spindle gouge. Let me grab one. Right, so with a spindle gouge, I've shown it so many times. All we have to do is, that's where our line is cut in, okay, and come round. So cut in there and come round. That's our tenon. Okay, this angle, just push in there. That is it. That's given us our tenon. Okay, and that is enough tenon to hold on to. But I've left it so small because I want to just show, if we're going to do it with our carbide. Now say we've been using our round carbide, okay, small bowl, I'm going to use a 9mm, because 9mm box solid. If you want to do bowls, get a 9mm box solid one. Right, we've done our shaping, we're going to do our tenon, exactly the same thing. Okay, look, we've got our bevel. All we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to cut in, and then we're going to come round like so. So we cut in and we come round. Gives us our same tenon. Okay, now I don't want to take that. I can go, I'm looking here, I can see my tenon here, see my jaws here, so I know I've got a little bit of play, but I don't want to go much smaller with it, so I'll only do a couple of cuts. I'll use different tools on the next bowl. Right, so we've got that. Now I don't have to worry about the flattening this bottom off, okay, because I know I've only got a very small tenon and that can fit in. If this dome is a bit bigger, then you are going to have to come in and flatten it off a bit here. Then we've spoken about that, we come on and we just raise our handle,
drop our handle, sorry, the cutter comes up, and we will flatten that, okay, like so. We're going to remove it afterwards, so don't worry about what it is there. That little bit there is fine, because that will go inside the hole of the chuck. It ain't going to cause you problems. But if you're on a worm screw and you don't want that there, then the simple thing is come round here and just take it off, like so. Okay, and all we do is drop our handle and we come up, or we put our cutter on with the bevel and we can come forward and we can take it off, like so. I'm a little bit high above centre for doing that. Right, there we go. That's our tenon. That's our tenon done. Right, it's nice. Yeah, I've got a little bit of, look, I've got a little bit of bark still there. But this was just showing. That actually gives me the chance. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to show you, well, how we do it with a square carbide chisel. I can make this deeper. So I'm going to bring myself back here. I didn't actually check by feeling there. I can feel it now. We're going to go a bit deeper. Right, so square chisel. Now, if you want to just push it, you can. I wouldn't recommend just pushing it. It's never good. Just do this, look. Right, there, and just roll it. Right, that has gone in, and you can see that's given me a perfect little dovetail. It's gone in. That'd be enough. That's enough to hold on to, okay? Because I'm not doing silly perfect circles. Right, and then we've got our bottom. Now, if we're wanting to finish this piece from here, we then would come from there, come around and start to shape our bowl, okay? And we'll start to do all our shaping, right? Blah, 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 we've done that, done all what we've got to do. I'm not doing that, I'm only showing the tenon. Right, now, we will come off, do all our finish, do all that sort of stuff, do that on the bottom, and then there we go. Now, I've still got a slope there, but if you look here, I've got enough hold on to. Have confidence in your tenons. So, right, we pop that off. It's only held on that little bit. Take that off, pop that out. And this is what I like with worm screws as well, quick and simple. That comes out. And now, I said, because what I said was, when that's in, so I'll just show you again, when that's in, you can see how far that's closed. When I spin that, you can see that if you put your finger there, you can feel it, is a perfect circle, okay? This and this outside, that's perfect circle. That's with literally about 3 mil, okay, gap in there. Right. You can see here I am not a perfect circle. I don't want to be. That's all. Now I could hold a piece if I had a tenon out here. It would not be a problem for me. I would quite happily hold out there. But I don't need to. But this is enough here, okay? And there we go, we're on. Alright, now I've got that. Now if I'd done that perfect circle and I've come on, that would be my perfect circle. Okay, but this would not be tight, okay, because a perfect circle and a perfect circle, all this flat metal is touching on that circle because it's perfect, isn't it? It's tight. Well, that's a perfect circle, so how am I going to turn that when it can still move? I can't. I've got to wrench down on it, haven't I? So I've got to over tighten it. So any over tighten, that's no longer. If I tighten more than a perfect circle, then it's not perfect circles. So don't get obsessed about it. It doesn't work, okay? Right, so that's in. That's tight. Now, when I say tight, look, I go. That's loose, right? Tight. That's just got it. Tight, and then that quarter. That is it. You don't ever need to tighten more than that. That has got that absolutely solid. You would not ever pull that out of there, okay? And that's it. It won't overmark, but what it's done, that quarter of a turn is enough that it has set Everything's flush on here, and you don't need a flat screw. You see I've rounded that. You don't need a flat. It's not needed on a bowl. And in here you can see, let me just get a,
Yeah, you can see it from here.
got to do a bit here. Right,
Those very corner, yeah.
the corner there will have just bitten in. This will all be touching here because we're not that far out, but we've bitten in, right? And when I take that out and I come out, I've got a hard bit, but just where it came out, let me go, right, there it is, just there, okay, with a broken pencil, and just here, that's the marks from that. When I tighten down, like so, that pencil mark, that's where those little points there just dig in, okay? That's exactly the same as when you get like a pair of pliers. These little grips in this round, if that was smooth, you wouldn't hold anything, right? It'd be very hard. You'd have to hold it so tight to move. Because it's got that little bit of serration, it grips and you can move things. Right, it's the same as that. If you're holding and all it's touching is this smooth here, it's going to be very hard for that to grip. You're going to have to tighten down a lot to get that to grip, okay? If you just make your tenons a little bit bigger, nip there, these dig in, and you've got it held. Boom. And you'll probably find you're holding on the whole of it anyway, because they're digging and this will be touching, okay? And everything will touch round and you'll be able to turn that absolutely fine and you won't lose it. I guarantee you won't lose it. And look, don't get catches and you don't lose things. It's as simple as that, okay? Now when you go, obviously I've gone a smaller tenon like that. Now when you come to turning the bigger bits like this, okay, which may be some of the reason why a lot of them, when they do wet turning, you'll notice if you watch like Glenn Lucas and that, a lot of the time they use a recess, and they will put a recess in the bottom of wet bowls, turn it round and put it and hold it in a recess. Why? Because you can get a bigger here. You're not going to lose so much wood. If you have to put a tenon on that big, you're going to lose a bit more wood, possibly. I don't know exactly why, I've never asked them. But now, a tiny little tenon like that on there, okay, you can do it, it will hold. But for me, I would rather get nearer to my maximum. So I would rather a tenon. I'm not going to go right out to its full. It's not that I won't, right, that's the full there. So I will come down to about there. I'd rather try and get that sort of size, okay? And if I put that sort of size on there, I'm gonna just, right, you can see how much more support I've got here for when I'm doing my hollowing, yeah? It gives that. So I'm gonna put a little pencil mark on that. I could just measure the jaws, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a pencil mark. I'm going to hold that centre, the pencil mark there. Right, now I can see actually that comes onto that, so I'm looking at roughly that size. So I will measure it so you know what I'm doing. I do things I do in my own way. Right, I will measure across, look. So what I'm going here now, if I get the mil, is I'm going for near enough a 60 mil. So it's just inside that line. So I'm going for around 60 mil. I think if I hold that, then that would be quite good. So I will go for a 60 mil tenon on this one. And that's nowhere near a perfect circle. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want more to hold. Bigger bowl, so I won't put the piece on, I'll just thread that straight onto that one, and we'll put a tenon on here. Now this is where I said this, if you've got bigger jaws, and you've got more jaws. But a lot of people haven't. A lot of people have only got one chuck. Right, there, that's on. And if you've only got one chuck, if you've got more chucks, then obviously you'll say like this, you can just go and do a tenon for this size, and that's going to give you a lot more hold on a bowl this size. Okay, but if you haven't got bigger jaws, it doesn't mean that you can still only have that small size tenon, which this is the small size we've got here that I've just done, and that is bang on 50 mil. Okay, but for me 50 mil on the bottom of here, that little tenon there, all that bowl, if I'm going to be hollowing, I might want to take some heavier cuts. There's a chance, yeah, it could, especially if you're one that wants to go that way and that way, or do silly little troughs and things like that, then you're asking for trouble. Okay, get as much surface area touching on here, and that will stop any chance of it, because when it's a catch, it normally comes off because the catch forces the bowl to do that. Okay, and that's why it will come off, because it does that. So the bigger area you can hold here, the less chance it's going to be able to do that. So that would be my suggestion to you. Okay, and what I'm going to do on here, I'm going to turn the speed down a little bit because we've got a lot bigger piece on, and to make this easier for me, if my pencil's going to, oh, my pencil's broken, Lisa grabbed me another pencil out of the pot over the back of the bandsaw over there. Sorry about that, guys. I could do this with calipers, but I'm just going to do it with a ruler and show you. Right, so I'm going to go for a 60 mil one, so I'm going to have the 30 mil at the centre, and we're just going to put a little pencil line on. Right, so I'm going to start that up. Right, there we go. So I can see the centre. Okay, if you're worried about doing it, see, sometimes it's easier to do things without your tool rest and everything there, because if this happens to touch that wood, look, it's not gonna, there's no getting it trapped anywhere. Okay, things only go bad when things get trapped and they can't move. So if I hold the 30 there, let's see, yep, that's going to be 60. Right, so I'm going to do my tenon that big on this piece. Okay, and I am not worried about whether it's a perfect circle or not. I don't have to be. I'm going to exactly the same. I will recommend it to everyone. I don't need to. I could do that without it. It's on that worm screw. I trust my worm screw. But if you can, bring that up. Okay. Right. Now we've got exactly the same thing. So we've been turning our bowl. We've been roughing our bowl round. And we've got to this stage. We've got to the stage where we want to put the tenon on. Right, I'm going to get a bit of speed up on there. There we go. Now, I should have gave you some measure. I'll give you the measurements of this bowl afterwards, okay? Now, I'm turning that, I'm going to go up to about 1800. Yeah, there we go. Right, 1800. Now, again, I'm just going to use a spindle gouge, okay? Now, with bowl gouges, it becomes a bit different, because a bowl gouge, you've got to be more careful with your wings. I don't like doing tenons with bowl gouges, okay? Happy with spindle gouge. And again, all I'm going to do is cut in here. So there you go, I've cut in. Okay, I'm using the bevel. This has got quite steep bevel, so I don't need it as steep going in. Right, I've got another little cut to do. There we go, and then again, I just bring the tool around, and that would clean my bottom from there. Okay, so that would be my tenon. I would not worry at all. Let me just check it. Yep, that one's fine. I would not worry at all about putting any flats in here. Okay, if you're bothered about it and you're concerned, come on, just put your thing there and come in here, and you can put yourself a little flat. Okay. For me, I'm not bothered. It wouldn't bother me in the slightest. Again, if you want to do it with your square chisel, you can come in, you can come on here I don't want to really reduce this, but come on here, and all we do is roll it in there. You can't go in flat with it, you can't angle that way, it has to be this roll. But that roll there, okay, it's not 45, it's just under. That angle of that cutter gives you a perfect dovetail every single time, okay? And that's it. That's our tenon done. But obviously we've done our turn in here. I've got flat spots on this and everything. Right, that's the size I would like my tenon, and that's the depth I would go for. And I'll just give you that. 5 mil. That's bang on 5 mil. That's all I need as a tenon on there. Now, if I was going to be making some really heavy cuts, I might be tempted to go a little bit bigger on that. But if I'm going to do heavy cuts, let me take my face shield off. I know I'm going to be doing some really heavy cuts on it, or I'm not sure on the actual wood, its stableness and things like that, then I wouldn't be going for this dovetail here. This is why I have gripper jaws. I would much rather, if I can, put a tenon in a gripper jaw, because of the hold I get. These teeth bite in. Again, it's all about that little bit of a bite in, but without having to over tighten. Okay, so that would go into something like that if I was worried about it. I wouldn't be worried about that bolt at all. That is fine. And then from that is why I go for shark jaws, because this, if I can get in there and get a big in, you know, and that's okay. Even a recess, I can get in there, get a nice recess on that. If I'm wanting to do really heavy cuts, you shouldn't be at that stage if you're learning. When you get to that stage, you'll know. So right, let's see what we did, because we've turned that. We turned it at a bigger side, which was 60 mil. I said I wanted this one. Let's just check that. There we go, we're bang on 60 mil.
Hang on.
That's at the side there, we're bang on 60 mil.
Yep.
So that's, we know that's not our perfect. Oh, don't do that, don't undo it.
It's on the worm screw.
Right, so as you can see, for a piece this size, and I'm talking now, if you've got other chuck, right, I could just go, right, okay, I'm going to take it and put it on this chuck, and I'll put that size on, and bang, that's it, not a problem with bigger jaws. If you've got more available to you. If you haven't, it doesn't mean, see, you can just see by looking, okay, the size of the bowls. I don't want that size on there.
No.
Because if I'm going to start hollowing on this, when I start and I start pushing in here, that's where the forces are, and I don't want it doing that. Okay, so the more surface area I can have touching, undo that, the better, and the less chance. Now I want you to see here where we are. Right, that is our perfect circle, remember. Okay, is at that size. Right, now you're going to see where I have to come out to. There. Okay, I've gone in, and now as soon as I touch, you probably see here,
I can see the points. Yeah.
you can see where these points have made their contact. Okay, right in there.
Yep.
And now that's tight, no movement, tight, and a quarter. That's it, quarter. There, bang, it's done. That's it. Doesn't need any more than that. You can see it is running perfectly true here. Okay, there's no wobble. It's not out of all this about it, as it will make it out. No, it won't make it out of true. It's held, but that is held solid. That ain't going anywhere. But what I've done, I've gone from this being the touch area of those jaws to it being right out here. So when what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark on here. Broke another pencil. Right, I'm just going to mark on the outside of these jaws, and this is what I'm trying to
show you, because everyone thinks you've got to do a perfect circle and all that. No. Right, when I take that out, now that outer circle is where those jaws are finishing, so I'm holding that far out on my bowl. Okay, so the support is actually coming out at 70 mil. I've got 70 mil of surface touching on there. That's going to stop all that happening. Okay, that's why I don't use. And also the grip. Now I want you to see, take that out, because otherwise people go, don't leave it chuck in, don't leave it chuck in.
The safety
right.
police.
Here and here, this is where those jaws bite in. Okay, like this.
Yeah.
They're biting in there, but they are still touching across here. Okay, because that's bitten in, and that's, you can see it's got little bite marks that have held in. Okay, but it's still inside the dovetail, so it's still not going to come up, but that gives me that grip, because when it's turning, what you've got to remember is when you've got something held in here, especially if it is on a perfect circle. Okay, when you start, and again, you can take this out and put it in as many times, because you're not a perfect circle, but these always go round, they always come in, even though it's not a perfect circle there, all the points will be at that same, they'll all be perfect, you know, where they touch. See, and it's still, look, I've taken it out again, put it back in, I haven't lined nothing up, and it's still absolutely running perfect on that back. Right, now those grips, see, when I start turning here and I start putting a bowl gouge in out here, there is one hell of a force on this. Okay, that is wanting to make that turn, and if that's a perfect circle, that can have, you won't even see it, you won't notice it at the speed it's turning, but sometimes if you take your chuck off, what you'll find is you'll have a burnish mark around this side. That's where your chuck's been moving,
spinning.
that's where it's been giving, just slightly, you're turning and it's slightly getting this like this. That puts heat onto the tenon, it puts pressure onto it, it's wrenching them fibres round. Okay, and your thing is, if it does start to give a little bit of you'll go back and go, just check that again, wrench it even tighter, more damage to the fibres. That, I'll hollow that whole bowl, that will be fine, and I won't even have to go back to it. There'll be no slippage. When I take it off, those marks will still be in exactly the same place. Okay, so if you do perfect circle and you do your perfect circle, right, a simple test, when you put it in, put a little mark where your jaws are, and then do your cut. And I'm talking about when you do a big piece like this, okay, you're gonna have to make some heavy cuts, put that there, and then when you stop and you've finished, have a look at it. I bet your pencil mark ain't still there. It's moved and gone inside. It will have moved that tiny little bit. The forces that go on here when that's turning are incredible. They really are. You would never believe how much force is coming down on that. Right, so that's it, guys. That's tenons. Then we've got the other side. We've got recesses, aren't we? How long have we been?
48.
48 minutes. All right, sorry guys. Right, okay, so now we've got now this is where it can be a bit awkward really, and you really need to have different jaws and stuff, because do I want a recess? Now recess really, as I said, you can hold without it being a perfect circle, but this is the perfect circle if you've got the standard jaws like this. Okay, and the perfect circle here comes out at, sorry,
Is it 50?
54, so I'm going to say 55 mil is going to be what I'm going to have to do for this to work, right? 50, no, I'll say 55. What can I come down to for that to go in? Right, I can come down to 50 and that should fit in. So then when I open, so yeah, just over 50 mil, so about 53 mil is going to be a perfect circle inside this. Now the only problem with that, 53 mil on a little plate like this, it's quite big. Although, saying that, sometimes it can actually look quite nice. Too small can look wrong, if you get what I mean. If it's too small, it doesn't always look right. The bigger can look better. So that's what we would have to do here. So let's quickly do I'm going to put this in because we're working on the side that you've only got your one worm screw, and you're going to hold this, a little plate on a worm screw, because how else are you going to hold it? You don't want to go putting a faceplate on something like that and putting all those screw holes in there. This, I've only got a small hole in there, so I think I should only want this yeah, that's all I want sticking out, is that little bit. Okay, and now, right, now the thing is, why I say what else are you going to hold it on, because yeah, you could put it on glue blocks and things like that. It's a lot of messing about in it. Right, that's on. I'm going to hollow the other side so the screw hole's going to disappear. Now the thing is, when you're doing the recess, is you don't want this, because you're going to be playing here. I know some people do it and they come in and they do it this. Don't really want to do that, do you?
No.
You're making life awkward. Things awkward for yourself. So right, a simple recess now. Right, again, I said it was going to be just over 50. Right, what I'm going to do for this, to do a recess, I'm actually going to set a set of calipers to it. And I'm going to set it to 50. Okay, to 50 is what I'm going to do my pencil, well, the first line net. Oh, sorry, forgot there. Because I know those jaws will go into a 50, and then obviously because I do the dovetail, so I want the opening to be where it's going to go in, not the opening at the widest point, if you get what I mean. So if I do, I'll show when I've marked it what I'm actually talking about here, so you can know, because you're probably thinking, what is he bloody talking about?
Show it. Show it.
I'll show it. I'll have a little cup of coffee. I always like to show what I say.
Yeah.
Willie.
Right, okay. That's just a child side comes out of me. Right, so we're going to, come on, that's too big. That's too much. Come in. There we go. Right, that's 50. Okay, 2 points lining up. Remember, we only touch with this one. If you're not comfortable doing this and you're a little bit worried, then always just halve your amount. So if you go down to 25, and I'm going to do this like this, then you put the point in the center. It won't flip because it's on center, and then you touch with this one, okay, and you'll get the same thing. Right, so that's our 50. Now what I was talking about was, when our jaws are closing, they go in, 50 is going to be there, yeah. But inside, because we dovetail it, is actually going to be our extended bit. Yeah. So don't think that you want it at 54 here. You don't. If you do this at the 54, in there is going to then be extra, so 58, and that's going to give you even more opening. So that's all we want. Now there's so many different ways we can do these things. I mean, you can do it with a parting tool. We can come in and start do our little like this, and all we would do is go along to the middle. I'm doing this very shallow because I want to show the different tools, okay? Right, so we would come to the middle, clean it up like so, and then what you would normally see people do is they would use a skew chisel and come in flat like this and put in the dovetail like so. Right, that's an option you've got. If you're using your carbide, right, so we can come in and we can use our square chisel. We can come. Now be careful when you're pushing the whole square on a flat. It can tend to grab Okay, it will vibrate. Easiest way is just to wiggle. Go there and go there. Just give a wiggle like so. Okay, and what you will do is you will start to make it go down. Then you can come on and do your flat. Okay, and get your depth. So if you're going to start with your square on a dead flat surface, wiggle it. Do that. Go in there and in there, in there, in there. That will create a rise in the middle. Then you can push on that and get your depth down without it ever grabbing. Remember, catch-free turning. If you do not your interpretation of this, but if you do exactly that, you will never get a catch. If you turn the way I turn, with the way I show you how to use the tools, you will never ever have another catch for the rest of your life. How nice will that be? Right, now, let's say we want to use our spindle gouge. The same thing if we're doing the spindle gouge. Right, how would I do this with this? Right, put it on the centre, rotate slightly, and come out to the edge. To where our step is. Drop my handle, and that gives me my dovetail. Okay, so again I've got a little bit of space. I've only gone in very shallow at the moment. So onto the centre. Okay, don't worry about this side, don't matter what you do this side, it cannot cut. Onto the centre, roll it gently, don't go over mad, don't go full throttle like that. And come in. As we get to this edge here, we drop the handle, and that will shimmy that up, okay, and that will give us our dovetail up in there. Okay, right, that's if we're using a spindle gouge. We might want to do it with our 9mm box follower. Okay, so we come on, same thing. We don't come on flat and move across, because that's just going to give us a round, isn't it? So we come on, we're a little bit high. The difference with the thickness of a bar, see? There. Right, again, roll it, rotate it, nice and gentle. Come to the side. Come out like this. Drop our handle. Right down. There. That's given us our dovetail. Let's just take that fluff away. Okay, that gives us our dovetail the same by going across. Okay, now we can clean this centre bit up just by coming in from where we started. There we go. Right, if you're not over happy with what you've got, then just come in with your detail chisel. Okay, now a lot of people will do this by going in flat here, like so. Right, that's okay, but it's not going to give you a very nice finish in there because you're scraping it. Remember, this is something you want to keep at the end. So again, bevel on, come in. That's our dovetail, done. Okay, in there, that's it, done. Here we're just going to clean this edge up there. Right, now we can, if we want, sorry, bars are a little bit higher, different size cutter, everything has to be adjusted. If you want, come on, put your bevel flat, rotate, exactly the same as a spindle gouge. Okay, come across, and try not to go too deep here. Come across, as we get to here, drop the handle, very important. Do not just push straight into the side. You must drop the handle and come up here. That's our dovetail, done. Okay. So that's all the different ways you can do your dovetail. You can make up special tools. You can get yourself a beading parting tool like this, and what you can do is just put a slight skew on it and it'll go in. You can cut in with it this way and you'll get a dovetail, but it takes a bit of practice. Put a little skew on it and you can come in and push in there. I did have one done like that, but I took it away and changed it. Other than that, like I said, skew chisel, okay. If you're really not happy, again, come up, don't do it below centre. Anything like this, you never want to be, don't ever aim up, okay, you'll get a nasty shot. This skew chisel, come in, and you can do it with your skew chisel, and all you've got to do is push in there, like so, and you can actually clean that bottom up. And there we go, alright? That's how we do our recess.
With a dovetail.
Right, and that's all we've got, that little recess like that, that's enough to hold that on and get in. Now, I do want to speak about that because you do have to watch with your jaws. They will depend, well, they will determine how deep your recesses can be. Okay, this is again why I have all these different types of jaws. Right, now I want to show you on here, at least will zoom you in a bit on these jaws, and you will see what I'm talking about. I'm wanting to see, I wouldn't normally be worrying so much about being exact, but there you go. Right, this is what I'm on about. Now that has just gone in, okay, and then when I open up, there we go, because that goes inside there, that's it, I've got it, and everything is held good. Could be a fraction bigger, maybe my measurement with the things weren't quite on, but that is it. But that is held with that, okay. Now again, when we come out, so it comes off easy, we've only got a small, you can see it's only, you see what that is. What have I done as a recess on that?
2 mils.
3 mil. We've got 3 mil, that's all we've got there as a recess. That's gone over, as long as that's gone over those jaws, that's it, 3 mil, and there we go, I've got it. Could be 1 mil bigger for that, but that's it. Right, now again, when you put it on, it's on, that's tight, that's it. You don't need no more than that. Because those jaws are like that, that cannot come off, okay? That can't come back out, and that is it. Now you're free to take your turns and do your hollowing, and that will not come off, and everything here is still running true. But don't get obsessed about exact measurements. Obviously make it big enough that it goes on it goes on the jaws. That's the main thing. But a little bit of trial and error as you do them. I haven't done a recess for a little while, and I don't normally measure, I just normally go done, that's it. I'm trying to be making the cuts with 5 or 6 different tools. I'm trying not to actually, I would have ended up being right out here. I didn't want it to go over. Under is never a problem, I can always make it bigger. The other way with tenons, over, you can always make it smaller, but you can't make it bigger, so don't go too small with a tenon. With a recess, don't go too big, because you can't make it back down smaller. So that's it, and that is exactly how we would do the recess. And then with that, before I would do that, now what I would do is do something like clean the edge. I'd do maybe a little foot, so I'd just do it, roll a little bit there, and then come round with my shaping. And I'm not doing the shaping of bowls, I'm only showing cutting this, the different ways you can do with the different tools, okay. Sizes, like I said, with different jaws they do, you might have a smaller recess, you might want to go for a bigger recess. I think that size, that would be fine on something like that. That would be stable enough, okay. And what I would do with that is I would actually come out to about there with a foot, okay. I wouldn't go ultra thin because you've got to hold this to hollow it. So I'd come out to about there, okay. And what I would do is I would then just do a little step, only tiny, 1/2 mil or so, and then bring my curve round. And that way, when that comes around, you'll have a little, just a little roll on that, and that's what it sits on. Okay, and then in here you can do whatever. You can do some little beads, little circles, you can do a little button in the center, or you might want to put something in there, stick something in,
your
and
emblem.
have that as your emblem, or something, whatever. But on something like that, if I do a tenon and I hold a tenon, I've then got to take the tenon off, I'm flattening it, I'm losing it. If I don't want to lose any of that depth, because remember
we've got to face this all off yet, so we're going to lose a bit on the front. I don't want to make it that small, so that's the way to go. Recess. Okay, now we go to the other side. That if we're going to do a recess, and this is where I say about jaws, I think personally a little hole like that
Too small.
in there would not look right.
No.
I would want that to be a big one like that.
Yeah.
Now again, that's where you want the bigger jaws, but if you haven't got bigger jaws, you can still use these, but you just have to be aware that when you come out and you're out here, say we was going to put that size circle in, or maybe even a fraction bigger, so out to there, so we'd have this size circle, that when this is in, it will only be touching on these 4 parts. Okay, so just keep it in mind. It can be done, it is fine, it is not a problem. Just keep it in mind that when you're hollowing this side, that you must maintain this way of your cuts. Don't ever come this way, because you will start doing this with your piece. Okay, the one beauty you've got, even though you're only holding there, there, there and there, because that's all you really need to be able to hold on it, it's you've increased this surface, the surface area you're touching there. That's what will stop that doing that. Okay, when you've got this down on a tiny small recess down here, okay, this has got more ability to want to do that. That's exaggerating it, okay, but this
That's
is
the movement,
when you're
yeah.
pushing on here, that's the pressure is there. Okay, and that will want to pop. That's the pressure going there. That's when you need to go slightly deeper. When you've brought your recess out as a bigger one, ideally have other jaws, but if you haven't got all those chucks, when that's on there, you've got a lot less movement. You can put a lot more pressure here before that's even going to try and move, so that's the way you want it. So I hope that helps, guys. Right, okay guys, that is basically it. I've done enough, it's been long enough. If you want to know anything more, you can always drop me a question or whatever, or make a comment. Any snotty comments, don't worry, I'll just remove you.
Or I will.
Well, Lisa will, yeah. Right, so that's it guys, but my main advice is get as many jaws as you can. Okay, so sometimes when you want to do something like this, you might want to do a big opening, like a tea plate. If you see a tea plate, it tends to have a big ring around here, doesn't it? So that's when you might want something like these big jaws, or even those jaws. Okay, and you can put that on there in a recess, and you can see how big you're gonna get. Okay, and that's the sort of thing I would go for. That's why I have all these jaws, to do everything. Right, that's it. Toodle pip guys, see you on the next one.
Bye guys, please subscribe.